term naturopathy arises from pathos, the Greek root word for suffering, and natura, the Latin root word for birth, and it was coined to mean natural healing. Competing against allopathic medicine in the early 20th century, promoted practices included hydrotherapy, which was popular in Germany, homeopathy, chiropractic, osteopathy, and the good old nature cure developed in Austria, using light, food, air, water, and herbs to address health. Why, hello there. It seems that you are not immune to the spot of weather we had this morning? No. Well, feel free to take off your hat and sit a while by the fire. Warm up a titch. I have a few charts I need to attend to. But feel free to stay as long as you may like. Pardon me, but was there anything I could assist you with today? Oh, heavens forgive me. I am not used to having my own practice, but let me start over. Hello and welcome. My name is Calliope, and you are more than welcome to use my Christian name to address me. And I am a naturopathic doctor, although I do dislike the use of doctor, and I prefer to call myself a naturopathic practitioner. It is a small but very important distinction, in my opinion. I don't like to be lumped in with the allopaths, the medical doctors, as you may know them. Now, would you mind telling me a little bit about what it is I am seeing you for? I will just write this down. And before we get too far, would you mind telling me a bit about your diet? No, this is very important. Well, as an aside, let me tell you a little bit about why I ask. While the allopathic doctor of today may have convinced the public that living a life of excess, consumption of food and alcohol and tea, this is not the way that nature demands us to live. And when we experience disease, it is because we are not living according to nature. Now, the allopath says you may consume to your heart's desire, but unfortunately that is not something we should be doing. And even though they say that they may cure any sort of ill with their miracle of medicine, the mercury, the bromine, the iodine, really what they are doing is trying to poison the disease faster than they try to poison the person, and hope that the disease dies first. Whereas with naturopathic medicine, we encourage people to go back to the natural way of living, and that is how we heal. Nature does not make mistakes, and it has its own way of healing. And when we follow that way, then all of our ills will be no more. So, with diet, that tells me a lot about what you may be encumbered by, the foreign matter that is causing this disease. Would you mind telling me a little bit about that? Wonderful. I see. And what does your exercise regimen look like? Oh dear. And what about your exposure to light and fresh air? I see. So when the air's mild, you may open the windows, and that is about it. Well, that would be your problem. Let me show you something. I've made myself a little quick guide to the program of naturopathic cure. Firstly, elimination of evil habits, including overeating, alcohol, drugs, tea, cocoa, coffee, meat eating, worry, improper hours of living, and even more sexual and social aberration. Another part of the program is corrective habits, like correct breathing and exercise and attitude. Attitude is a big part of it. And the last is the new principles of living, and we wish to adopt these. This is correct fasting, correct food, light and air baths, mud baths, osteopathy, chiropractic, heliopathy, and etc. This is just a quick little guide. And you are more than welcome to have that. Now, this is a bit of a process for the normal person. People are not certain why they need to give up tea or cocoa, alcohol, perhaps, but also meat. But a vegetarian diet and a raw diet is pinnacle of healthy eating. And there may be a few things that you may eat that you are more used to, but changed just a little. For example, consuming bran bread instead of a white bread would be a good trade-off. And eating many vegetables that are picked at the peak of their freshness and have no blemishes or any sort of sunken spots. So it is a matter of picking the best produce and consuming it raw for the most part. There is a little bit of cooking that one can do, but that is a big thing. But exercise, like walking is a very easy but important regimen to implement. And the treatments, like the osteopathy, chiropractic, the heliopathy. See, naturopathy, it's origins seem to be more from the German and the Austrians, but in fact, these sorts of principles were thought of even by the god of the allopath himself, Hippocrates. So these different treatments, while some of them may have been formalized as of late, they have roots from thousands of years ago. I would like to conduct an examination of you, and this is not like the allopathic examination. I will not be tapping on your body. I will not be using the stethoscope or examining any sort of tissues. What I am looking for is your state of encumbrance. And this is called the science of facial expression. And while it does have facial expression in the name, it is a full body examination. But it is non-intrusive and does preserve propriety, which I do approve of. Now, the encumbrance is where the foreign matter of your body sits, where it accumulates. So, for example, someone who presents with a swelling in the neck, this would be a front and side encumbrance. And this is much easier to treat than, for example, a back encumbrance. That is the most difficult and the most chronic of problems. That is more reserved for the people who have ignored their health for many years. And while the nature cure may help, it can only alleviate so much. So it is very important that you came to me when this disease was still young. Now, let me take a look at you. I have a form that I like to use, and we will start with the size of the head. Now, the head, if it is too large, indicates foreign matter. But yours does seem to be, it does seem to be more of a well-proportioned size. And the neck. Now this is somewhere we may see encumbrance. Would you mind pulling your head up a bit? And tucking your chin down and turning to the left and turning to the right. How is that for you? I see. I'd like to look just a bit closer and look for any prominences, whether it is on the neck, the head, the chest, even the rest of the body. I want to just There is no mark or feature that suggests encumbrance. Very good. And now let us take into consideration the shape of the chest. If it has a slope to it, if it is sunken. But I think that is quite normal. And what of the abdomen? I would also consider that more on the normal side. The trunk as a whole, you are a bit trunk heavy. There is a lot of trunk. It's more than the rest of your body. And of the legs, both their shape and also if they are bowing at all, whether it is inward or outward. And of the face. At least that storm cleared, and the light is much brighter. I do not like to bring a candle close to the client's face. We wish for the forehead in ideal health to be smooth and without wrinkles. For the eyes to be clear, the nose to be centered in the face, and the mouth to have a good amount of tissue, but not overly full and not overly thin. And would you mind if I have a look at your teeth? Any sign of tooth decay indicates a more advanced sort of encumbrance. Very good. You can close your mouth. There is to be in a healthy sort of person a clear line at the jaw and at the nape of the neck. The absence of these also indicates quite a bit of encumbrance. Shape of the face ideally would be oval, and let's see, good. Let me take a bit of a look at the back of the head. I see. The other side. Good. That looks all fine and good. color is a little more on the pale side, however. It is not overly yellow or red, but for your skin tone, it is a little pale. But I think overall, with the rounded chin, the mouth being closed, we have the lines very clearly. The neck. Do you mind turning your head a bit? It does concern me that the mobility was a little impaired. And would you mind turning your head to the other side? I see. There is some additional cording to the muscle of the neck that should not be there in a healthy individual. Would you mind trying to turn it just a bit more? Oh. No such luck. So this side of the head has a bit of the front and side encumbrance. Now I have used that word quite a bit, but we have not discussed it very much, have we? No. In naturopathic medicine, in nature, the body absorbs from the skin, from the lungs, from the stomach, everything that we need, and what we do not need, we get rid of. Now, with the artificial and poisonous substances, alcohol, or a sedentary lifestyle, or overeating, then we accumulate foreign matter that the body cannot get rid of, and it has to go somewhere. Now, on you, it looks like the matter has accumulated more in this area. There are just a few signs that it has started to move in the face just a little, but it is still quite early. But this is the reason for disease. All disease arises from the same sort of circumstances, however, its symptoms may be varied. Now, the accumulation of this foreign matter is what causes the disease, what causes the symptoms. If we rid ourselves of the accumulation by following nature and the way that life should be lived, then this will slowly go away, and your symptoms will diminish, and you will be living a much more fruitful life. For a front and side encumbrance, the very first thing I will recommend is a friction hip bath. Let me tell you a little bit about that. In addition to following the program, this is very important to add. Now, I will give you this little sheet of instructions, and it says, instructions for a friction hip bath. Sit in a tub so the water can sit at the thighs and navel, while the arms and legs rest outside it. You may have seen these sort of wash tubs. Perhaps they have been used for the laundry, for example, where it is perhaps this big, not very large at all, not hard to store, but one would sit so that their arms are outside and their legs are outside, but the water can rise to just below the navel and cover up to the thighs. The water should be 64 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. This will be quite cool, and that is the point of the bath. Rub briskly, without stopping, the abdomen downwards and across with a coarse cloth until the body is cooled. Now the middle of the body, not so much the chest upwards or the legs downwards, often suffers from too much activity and too much warmth. And what these baths will do is encourage the constriction of the blood vessels, and therefore the rest of the body should get some of that blood from the middle, and it will also help to cleanse you of the foreign matter. After the bath, exercise in open air until the body is warmed. This is also very important. We do not want you to stay in the vasoconstricted state, but we want to encourage vasodilation afterwards so that this helps your body rid itself of the poison. And so you should be exercising in the open air, whether it is stretching or walking or doing some other sort of stimulating activity. And this should be completed 1 to 3 times a day. Now, many people may do this first thing in the morning, and they may do this once after the supper, and perhaps before the dinner. And the rest of the evening is used more for rest. So, the friction hip bath. This is yours. As for the diet, I would recommend small meals, and the biggest ones would be more in the first part of the day, and the last meal of the day should be more what you might consider a snack. We have discussed the importance of the raw food, and one could indulge in a bit of bran bread, but as far as beverages is concerned, you should be only consuming water. Only water. No tea, no coffee, no alcohol. Yes, and absolutely no meat. Nothing of the flesh. It is on par with the drugs from the allopaths as poison. We are not meant to eat the flesh of another being and take its foreign matter into our own body. It is not how it should be. And exercise, I would say, at least twice a day. For something more moderate, a good brisk walk. Perhaps in the morning and perhaps in the afternoon. That would be a very good start, I think, to our program. And lastly, but sometimes the most difficult, is that we wish to cultivate a positive attitude. Negative thoughts and emotions are as dangerous as foreign matter, and it is very important. All of this is very important, of course, but it is important that we cultivate a healthy mind as much as a healthy body. Now, it will get much easier as time goes on. As you follow the program and as you feel much better, as your disease subsides, it will be much, much easier to be very thankful for everything that you have, to not worry, to not grow in anger. It will be almost second nature, really. And these are the steps that we will start with. Now, I should like to monitor your progress, I think 1 to 2 times a week. I will have you know that there is a sort of healing crisis that can occur in the beginning. And you may notice that your symptoms start to feel a lot more, I don't wish to say severe, but they will be more noticeable. And after, I would say, 2 weeks, perhaps 3, as long as you are following the program to the letter, then these will subside quite quickly. That is the healing crisis that your body goes through. And while it goes through that, I think I should like to see you much more often than not. After a few weeks, I think that you should be just fine to check in once a week. Does this sound agreeable to you? Very good. And do you have any sort of questions for me? I did not talk much about the treatments. That is correct. That is something that after we go through the healing crisis, we may discuss a bit more. But naturopathic medicine works in conjunction, often, with other sorts of healing modalities, such as chiropractic, osteopathy, and iridology, for example. And the friction bath is part of hydrotherapy, the water cure introduced to the United States by Benedict Lust from Sebastian Kneipp, and that was from more the German side of the world. And the hydrotherapy is what I prescribe the most. The chiropractic and the osteopathy, I certainly do believe in, of course, but there is some, conversation within those circles about how one is to evaluate and administer treatments. And currently, I am not certain that I have a preferred osteopath and chiropractor in this area. But this practice is, of course, new, and I have a bit of time to look around and ascertain for myself whether it is something I wish to send you to. Your health is one of the absolute most important things to me. Of course, what would a healing practitioner be without the health of their patients, of course? So, when I am confident in their abilities to follow the natural way of living, then we may discuss that as well. The chiropractor will look at the spine for subluxations and adjust them as need be. The osteopath looks at the body and how it moves, where there may be restriction and how it may be alleviated. So that is something perhaps we can discuss later on. Does that answer your question? Wonderful. Absolutely excellent. I think with that, I will leave you with the program of Naturopathic Cure. This quick guide to remind you of what you need to be eliminating and implementing in your daily life, and the handy little guide to the friction hip bath, the hydrotherapy, the water cure as it was once known. These are yours to take home. Now, I believe that is all the information I have to part with you this lovely afternoon. And shall we set a date for when I will see you next? Next Thursday, I will jot you into my schedule. And what time would you like to come? Is the same time? Is that agreeable? Wonderful. Perfect. Now, I would very humbly ask if you could tell all your family and friends about the wonder of the nature cure and naturopathy, if you wouldn't mind. See, my goal is to impart as much healing in this world as I can and help to take it back from the allopaths that seek to poison their patients. So, if you have somebody that you are very concerned about or you value their health quite a bit, then if you could send them my way so that I could take a little look at them and hopefully we can start them on a program as well. Very good. Thank you. Now, I will bid you adieu. I'm certain your hat and your clothing have dried by now. Looks much clearer out than it did before. Thank you so much for coming into my office this afternoon. I quite appreciate it. I hope you have a most wonderful day and a most wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you. Goodbye. Oh, naturopathy. What can I say? It is certainly a pseudoscience, that is for sure. It's not very often that I do a whole bunch of research and come upon one resource that renders the rest null and void, essentially. But I found the Universal Naturopathic Directory Buyer's Guide from 1918 to 1919 that was edited by one of the big figures of naturopathic, and that is Benedict Lust, and he was the one who brought the hydrotherapy or the Wasserkur from Germany to the United States. So picking through that, realizing it had everything I needed and it wasn't fluffed like other naturopathic history resources were. It was kind of hard to find one that didn't try to make it seem much more scientific than it really is. But this one was very frank about what the practices were, what it all did. And to be honest, if we're talking the early 1900s, I totally understand the naturopathic movement. This is the time where you used mercury to treat syphilis. Like, it was the wild, wild west. We were making a ridiculous amount of progress, but it was pretty miserable, and a lot of the side effects of the drugs and whatnot, it was a tumultuous time. So I understand why people were hesitant, because this was new technology, and the charlatan remedies were very prevalent, and there were a lot of problems with people calling themselves medical doctors who absolutely were not. So I understand how wary people were. Granted, that makes sense for that time period, but somehow it has still persisted into the 21st century. But at least in the early 1900s, it was pretty cool to research and learn about.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I create primarily medical, alternative medicine / pseudoscience, and personal attention ASMR roleplays. If you want to check out a specific category of my videos, my channel playlists have everything from sci-fi to historical to even fantasy videos. If you want to support my work, consider checking out my Patreon profile in the description box, where I offer early access to videos, exclusive